Hey everybody, Scott here again. I really appreciate you coming back to the channel. If you're here, you're probably looking for some answers on hybrid log gamma, particularly with the Sony A7 III camera. I'll just get this out of the way. I'm not an expert by any means. I have a lot of experience with color, with cameras, with cinematography, with directing, but this particular feature of this camera is just as new to me as it is to any of you. All I can share with you is the tests that I've done based on the results that I'm trying to achieve. That's a very important thing to keep in mind when asking questions and when experimenting, is that it all boils down to what you're trying to achieve. So when I put out my settings or when I share responses, some of my answers are just blanket facts, but some of them or a good number of them have to do with what I'm going for and what look I'm trying to achieve under particular circumstances. And there's so many variables to that, and that's always changing. So I need to be careful about, talking about my recipe or whatever, because it's always changing, and it would take a lot of customer support on my end to constantly keep everyone up to date on my findings. So take everything I say with a grain of salt and try it for yourself. See what settings you achieve that you like best for what you're trying to achieve. For me, I have a specific goal in mind, and that's primarily to get really good skin tones, really dynamic color, and flexibility in the color, that I can push it and hold it back in the ways that I want and retain the color information that I'm trying to retain. So with that all out of the way, what are your HLG settings? Well, I have 2 videos up now that talk about the settings that at the time I was really liking, but again, take it with a grain of salt. Those are under particular conditions. I really like to shoot very lit, stylized narrative stuff. I'm not really a YouTuber. I'm not going out and making vlogs or anything like that. So those settings might not work for what you're trying to achieve. What I would say is test it and then dial it in for what you're actually trying to achieve. Next up, what is the dynamic range of HLG? That's a great question. I have the same question. And if you have an answer and you know how to figure out the dynamic range of cameras, let me know. I know it takes a lot of work and research to figure that out because you have to test multiple exposures, and I just don't have any interest in doing that. So if you're good at that and you've done that before, let us know. What kind of dynamic range are we looking at for HLG? I can tell you it's definitely more than 10.5 stops. I had a camera previously that just didn't come close to this, and it was around 10.5 stops of dynamic range. All that to say, it's not 14, 16, it's not S-Log3 territory, but I found that the colors and the flexibility of the colors are a lot more workable than S-Log3, even properly exposed S-Log3, which it's a pain in the butt to expose 2 stops overexposed and hope for the best with S-Log3. So, and I know some folks are going to come after me with pitchforks about that because some people have bizarre brand allegiance to S-Log. I don't know why, but that's fine. Scott, where can I get that LUT you're using? Okay, so this question I've answered probably like a billion times, and I'm fine to share it. It's just kind of the point where it's kind of a distraction from the point of the videos. The point of the videos isn't like, look at this LUT, look how great the result is. There are a billion LUTs on the internet, and frankly, the whole notion of just throw a LUT on there and it'll look cinematic kind of drives me crazy anyway. So I'll just say the LUT I use a lot is it's a Kodak 5219 LUT. It emulates a commonly used tungsten-based film stock. You can get it from Vision Color in the Impulse pack. I really like those LUTs because they emulate film stocks, but again, there are a billion LUTs that do that, and there are a billion LUTs on the internet. So don't get hung up on LUTs. Because also, once you quote-unquote throw a LUT on there, there's a lot of ideally color grading that you need to be doing, and there's a lot of tweaking to the image. There you have it. I hope that answers that question once and for all, because I've answered that question so many times, but I love you guys. Why is the footage overexposed when I bring it into my editor? So we go over this a little bit in the demos that I did. Basically, HLG is designed to be, it's an HDR format, so it's designed for HDR calibrated monitors. So basically the computer is like, when it brings it in, it's like, whoa, what is this? I don't know how to display this. So it looks all overexposed. So there's the conversion method that I showed in my previous videos, and then actually a guy by the name of Sam McAllister kindly commented on one of my videos and showed a really simple way to convert the footage to Rec. 709 properly. You can do it with mass amounts of clips. So I will link to his channel. Thank you, Sam. It's great advice. I wish I had thought of it, because it's like, oh, duh, of course. But you basically select all the clips in either the timeline or the bins, and then you go to the inspector window, you scroll down and select settings from the drop-down menu at the bottom, then you select color space override, and then you select Rec. 709, and then from there you can grade the footage as normal. Again, you still have kind of a nice sort of loggy format, so thank you, Sam. That's awesome advice and really useful for folks doing this, because I know my prior conversion method is like way too many steps, but I think it did a good job demonstrating the flexibility of HLG. How do you expose HLG properly? The answer to that is if you set your meter to 0, 0, so like just how you would traditionally expose, like right in the middle. I use basically like, I forget what it's called, but it's a metering that evaluates multiple parts of the image and then averages them out. And I have my zebras set to 95, and zebras are crucial. Expose for 0, but like if you're trying to protect your highlights and you really care about that, then use zebras. But other than that, it's, it's how you expose anything. Why HLG 3 as opposed to the others? Actually, so this video I'm shooting in HLG 2. My settings are more or less the same as how I have my HLG 3 settings currently, but essentially HLG 3 has worked really well for me in diverse situations, whether it's, broad daylight, a lit situation like this, street lights at night, and it's all looked pretty good. And to be totally frank, I just haven't had the time to try out the other versions. I hope to have more comparisons and to really dive into like what the differences are. I know there's a write-up somewhere on interwebs that sort of describes the differences and how some are better for low light, some are better for, sort of neon street lighting and those kinds of things. The best thing that I can say is find out for yourselves, like do some testing. Again, figure out what kinds of environments you're trying to shoot in, what kinds of lighting situations you're trying to shoot in, and try the different profiles. But HLG 3 has done really well for me so far. And, I had one shoot recently where I was shooting broad daylight, super sunny Los Angeles, white sunlight. And 20 minutes before I was shooting in a dark theater, really high ISO, and both sets of images, I got like super, super clean images. And a lot of people have asked about, like, you have your black set to plus 15. And I've since dialed that back a little bit, but like part of the reason I've been doing that is because in sunlight, you still retain all that shadow information, and then you can I dial the blacks down anyway, but I have that information if I need it. And then in low light situations, like shooting in the theater, when I shot it, it looked like all the shadows were super grainy and noisy from the ISO, but once I color corrected it the way I wanted, it was like smooth as butter. Like it looked like it was shot on Alexa. So I'd love to test the other profiles more, but so far it's just HLG 3 has, worked best for me in multiple scenarios. If you guys learn otherwise, cool, let me know. So somebody asked me, Scott, I have a recorder, should I be using it? Absolutely. One of the biggest setbacks of these Sony cameras in the first place was that they boasted, 14 stops of dynamic range and S-Log 3, and the problem was, you weren't really getting that because the color was so terrible because you're shooting an 8-bit internal. and that just wasn't cutting it. So like, unless you were recording to an external device, and unless your camera was able to record at least 10-bit color, 422 ProRes, you just really weren't retaining enough color information to push that grade and to make the S-Log look good. The cool thing with HLG so far, and for my purposes, again, that's my caveat, like, don't take this and be like, HLG is the greatest thing ever and it's best for every situation. Like, for what you're trying to do, it might not be. For what I'm trying to do, like, it's been great. And even in 8-bit, there's so much color information, and there's all the color information that I want, and I'm able to manipulate it exactly how I want to. And then add to that a recorder and shooting. I don't think it outputs 10-bit. I believe it still outputs 8-bit, but shooting 422, you're getting, you know, more color information per pixel. So yeah, what? Use a recorder. I want a recorder. Somebody buy me a recorder, please. Hey, I've got a wedding coming up. Should I shoot an HLG3? Maybe. And the reason I say that is, have you tested it? Have you shot it in conditions that will be similar to your wedding? So like, have you shot in low light? Have you shot with crazy colored lighting? Have you shot in broad daylight if you're shooting an outdoor wedding? I would say, like, do whatever you've been doing. If you've been doing wedding or event videos or those kinds of things, and you have had success with a different profile, maybe, like, if you got something coming up real soon, don't shoot in HLG. Wait until you've put it through the paces and you're really comfortable working with it. But once you get comfortable with it, yeah, why not? Sure. Which picture profile should I use for HLG3? I use picture profile 10, but it doesn't matter. They're all customizable. So it's really just about, like, you know, how many of them you want to change. Some of them are already set up as certain things. So, like, to avoid confusion, I would just go further down to, you know, 8, 9, 10. But it's whatever you want to customize. How does HLG3 look in broad daylight? I need to get you guys more videos and take more videos in broad daylight and kind of show some of my testing there. Unfortunately, I shot a lot of stuff in San Francisco, but I had a really terrible ND filter, so it was giving me this awful vignetting. So I'm, like, too embarrassed to show it. But I'm hoping to get some stuff soon, as soon as I have the time. But what I can say from a shoot that I just did that I can't show the footage to, it looks great. It looks amazing. And like I said, in the same day I was doing interior dark room stuff, I was doing bright, broad day. I was shooting one family, like, up against a white sky, and was still retaining all the shadow information and had great dynamic range. And, like, the daylight stuff looked like red footage. So whatever that means. So yeah, it looks great. So to conclude, I'm loving hybrid log gamma so far. I have so many thoughts, and I know you guys have a lot of questions, and like I said, I can't answer all of them. I'm doing my best to answer as many of them as possible, and to be honest, a lot of them I don't answer because I don't know. I'd rather you find out on your own than to lead you astray. I know the internet, there's a lot of folks leading folks astray, and that's not good. Don't be doing that. But yeah, do your own testing, figure out what works, and I'm a big believer in goals. Like, what are you trying to achieve? What look are you trying to achieve? And what scenarios are you shooting in? And what is your medium? Are you a YouTuber? Are you a vlogger? Are you a corporate video producer? Are you a narrative filmmaker? These all have totally different use cases. And I'll add to that, like, part of the reason I'm testing HLG2 right now, and I'm trying to test the different flavors of it, is because I'm probably going to have, you know, a different setting for lit interiors than I have for streets at night or broad daylight. So think about that and really do your own testing. But I love the engagement that you guys are having. I love the discussion about this exciting new profile. It's very exciting. It's beautiful so far, and it seems like a lot of you guys are stoked about it. And I really appreciate you guys checking out this channel and engaging with the channel. I want to keep chatting with you guys, and hopefully I can keep making good videos for y'all. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like what you saw and you're liking these videos, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter.